We've been lately looking quite a bit into synths in metal and modern metal particularly, and we've covered quite a bit on creating atmospheric pads, synths that follow the guitar, and anything in the middle. However, there is a bit of a dark horse in the world of synthesis, and that is granular synthesis. Here's why I think that you should know about granular synthesis and you should apply it to your modern metal productions. In normal synthesis, you create sounds by applying waveforms and wavetables, essentially using maths and filtering the synthesized waveforms accordingly, creating your sounds and movement in these. For granular synthesis though, you start off building your sounds by applying the pre-existing samples, chopping and slicing them and looping them accordingly. You end up creating some very unusual and complex sounds that end up sounding really atmospheric and unique based on what you feed into the engine. There are a lot of commercial libraries in Contact that are based on the granular synthesis. Ashlight and Straylight come to my mind straight away. In my opinion, granular synthesis provides you a super atmospheric and super unique, weird, dissonant or deep sounds that can really complement your metal tracks, especially the breakdowns. So let's do it. Let me show you what we're dealing with. This is a cover of Dila, the cancelled band, which sounds really sick. And I've added those production elements so we can go ahead and look into the creation of this. Check it out. It's a bit hard to listen to this because this turned out really dark and brutal with that industrial undertone to it. In the next part of the video, I will go ahead and I will break down every element that I created for you so that you could create this as well on your own. Let's do it. Hey, I'm Dr. Mike Trubetskov and I'm here to bring valuable information on recording, producing and mixing metal. So mate, please like and subscribe and share this video so that your mates and yourself access this value next time as well. I'm also offering one-on-one and group coaching sessions where we open up your projects in real time, go through your challenges and find the best solution to improve your recording or mixing game. So if this is of interest, I will leave the link in description. Let's go. The advantage of using granular or any sample-based synthesis is that you have an immediate access to sounds that create a certain atmosphere. And these are very difficult to synthesize with your traditional sampling. So you may want to come up with an Egyptian or Middle Eastern kind of atmosphere for your metal track. You open up some of your libraries, in this instance a Straylight, and you just browse through presets and you immediately come up with something like this. This sounds really cool. This adds depth to the section that otherwise didn't have this particular vibe. And let's track that in and see how it sounds. That's pretty sick. Now this breakdown sounds a bit empty and hollow. Check this out. It may need something. And now here, the key is that you go either way that you want this to be. You can go cold industrial, you can go melodic and dissonant, or you could go just drony atmospheric. Let's see what we can come up with while just browsing through the presets and modifying these accordingly. Let's see. I just came up with this part on the fly. To me, the breakdown with this part starts to hit much harder because it has that cold, dissonant atmosphere and a bit more melody. This pad creates that anxious, almost scared feeling for the listener. The samples that are being used remind me of glass bowed-like instruments, and these would be very difficult to synthesize with your ordinary wavetable kind of synthesis. Therefore, this granular synthesis comes in place really well. It also sounds lushy and atmospheric and pulls into the background in a nice way. Great example to demonstrate you how you can implement granular synthesis and adjust the samples that you use on the fly. Here we came up with a synth melody that follows the guitars, and it currently sounds like this. It sounds a little bit weird on its own. Let's look into how we can improve this specific patch and tweak those samples so that they sound more in line with what we're after. Right now I'm gonna solo the left one, this one here. You can see that by selecting a different part of the sample, you change the tone of it. I'm sort of hearing a more reverse kind of sound, reverse whoosh into this. So we may go ahead and try tweaking this here under the grain module. Let's attack. Let's look into the second sample now. Right, and this one is annoying because it is too percussive. And I mean, we do want some percussiveness, but not as much. This is pretty good. And two together now. I'm pretty happy with that. In the mix. What happens is this synth adds some weird feeling underneath the riff. It does not draw much of attention, if any, to the actual riff. The riff stands out at the top. It still punches through. It still sounds like a guitar-driven music, but this creates a very unsettling atmosphere which makes your listener frightened and uncomfortable. And that's good for creating tension because then you enter the breakdown and you build it even more. But this is a subtle way to pre-build that tension before the breakdown, which is really cool. We can look into this synth here. If you use an industrial sample, it can create a very, very unsettling atmosphere too. This is sick. Really sick. Super angry and ambient. The selection of sounds and the samples are very important for creating the right vibe. However, choosing the right notes to play on your synth are equally as important, or not more than that. Let me show you what I did exactly so that you could get inspired and understand the best direction that you can apply for your tracks. And there are different kinds of notes here. In the first part, this one here, you can bounce off the actual guitar riff and repeat that melody with your synth. However, adding some subtle variation like going one octave above to lift that consequent session and then go back creates a swiveling effect for your listener, and that creates contrast, dynamics and excitement. Next up is this here. The way to come up with such melodies is to think about the counterpoint melody. These are just 4 notes that are in the right scale for the song, they fit the scale, they sound a bit dissonant and a bit detached, yet it's still a melody which can serve as a hook to your listener. If you struggle to create melodies on piano or on a synth, if you're not a keyboardist player by default, you can grab your guitar if you're a guitarist and come up with a simple 4-note, 3-note melody on your guitar and then transcribe it into your MIDI with your piano roll. And that can help you to create some hooky patterns and captivate your listener with those background elements. I believe that this next bit turned out the best, incredibly aggressive. Bloody hell, I don't know how this happened, but this just gets me going so much. You can get your inspiration just from the preset itself. If you listen to what this preset gave to us, it already sounds rhythmic and it gives strange atmosphere. If you want this to add more tension, or if you want this to behave more like a pitch-shifted guitar, add dissonance. Dissonance intervals would be your adjacent notes, so semitones, which sound very unsettling, or your diminished intervals. Although the diminished interval would sound a bit more melodic, it still can sound incredibly unsettling if implemented right. So what I did here, I basically followed an idea that stems from guitar playing, and that is using your octaves. Low first, going up 1 octave. Rhythmically, you can bounce off the groove of the song and just find the preset that grooves the right way. So I think that in this video we came up with some really sick atmospheric layers for this dealer track, and that, in my opinion, has lifted this production to whole new heights. Now, could you have achieved this with your regular synthesis? I believe so to an extent, although the subtleties between the atmosphere that you create by applying the actual samples of different vibes is not quite matchable. Although there are different sounds and different synthesizers like Massive Serum, which contain a lot of different wavetables, I think using granular synthesis pulls more atmospheric, more background kind of sounds that surround and wrap around your production in a good way. I hope that you find this video valuable, and I really hope that this inspires you to put some granular synthesis in your next production. I'm Dr. Trubetskov, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, rock on!